Okay, let's call to order the Sparks City Council meeting of August 27, 2018 with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini,
Here?
council members Abbott. Here. Lawson. Smith.
Here.
Bybee. Here. Deere. Here. City Attorney Adams. Here. City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Okay, 3.1, if you stand, please, for invocation speaker, Pastor Barb West, Sparks Church of the Nazarene.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Look at this, and the mayor's standing.
And he's standing up.
Look at that. Praise the Lord. I've been bragging on you that I knew today was the day you're going to get to stand
I knew I had
up.
to stand for you, Barb. You're my favorite, so.
Thank you, Gino. Love you. Would you all bow with me in prayer? Our precious Heavenly Father, how thankful we are together today to do the business of our precious city, Sparks, Nevada. And Lord, we just pray that you would be with this fine council today and all of the things that they have on their agenda to look at and to discuss and vote for. And how thankful we are that you have heard our prayers and have allowed our mayor, Martini, to be able to stand for this occasion. What a joyous day that is. And Lord, we're thankful that the fires are being put out, and we pray once again that you'll be with the firefighters, be with all of our first responders, our police force, and Lord, just keep us safe, we pray. So today we draw down the wisdom from above for all of these fine members as they look to what is on their business agenda today. And we thank you that you will give them the wisdom and the knowledge of how to lead us into the future. Thank you for all of the building that's going on and all of the progress that we see here in our city called Sparks. Bless it and us, and hear our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So if you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I'm going to try to turn around here if I can.
Meet the chair there.
Yeah. Okay, if you'd stand, please, and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Well, you can follow me. To the pledge to the greatest flag in the world. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Ready for it? Thanks. It's a good thing I got a lot of helpers here. Okay, let's go into number 4, public comment. I have no speaking cards, but I believe we have something to be read into the record by our city clerk.
Yes,
Teresa,
sir.
go ahead.
We received this by email this morning, 8:27. My name is Anne Marie Grant. My brother was killed when Reno police hogtied him during a mental health crisis at a casino he was a guest at. Instead of getting an ambulance, they hogtied him for 40-plus minutes as he begged for medical attention. They chose to keep a knee in his back with him face down while they filled out their paperwork before transporting him to Washoe County Jail and dumped him there still hogtied. The incompetent, poorly trained deputies, instead of getting my brother medical attention, ignored his pleading that he couldn't breathe, that he was going to die. He told them that they were killing him. 4 deputies then smothered my brother to death. Sparks PD did the so-called independent investigation and found no wrongdoing. I write to you today as I have requested 10 police report files from Sparks PD. They told me it would cost $1,831. I have emailed the mayor about this. He did respond saying he would refer to the city manager. I never heard from you again, Mr. Mayor. It is as follows, and my message to you all and the mayor still remains the same. These fees are ridiculous and certainly do not promote transparency. My name is Anne Marie Grant. I am writing to you in regards to a public records request made via the Freedom of Information Act to Sparks PD. Originally, I was left a voicemail stating the total would be $55, being $5 a case at 10 requested cases. The very next morning, I received an email stating the total was $18.31. I am writing to you in hope that I can receive assistance in rectifying this unreasonable fee that is being asked of a citizen. Surely the majority of the population in Sparks cannot afford to hand over nearly $2,000 for documents that the public has a legal right to. Responding to public records requests and providing openness are important government functions that the public already pays, pays for through tax levies. While I understand NRS 239-052 allows a fee to be charged, it clearly states that such fee must not exceed the actual cost to the government entity to provide the copy of the public record unless regulated by specific statute. The NRS also states a governmental entity may waive all or a portion of the charge or fee of a copy of the public record. While Sparks PD does have a fee schedule listed, it only states copies of police records that take 30+ minutes or more to process or size may be subject to a research fee. However, there is no mention of what that research fee is or how they determine it. I had a similar issue with Reno PD, who initially requested $633 from me for 10 public records requests. They have now reduced that fee significantly after I emailed the Washoe County Commissioner, Reno Mayor, and Reno City Council. I have no idea if that is why the price suddenly changed, but it certainly was appropriate and appreciated. It seems painfully obvious that $1,800 is not a reasonable fee, and the public has a right to these documents. These cases requested involve community members who were shot and killed by the police department. If any public record should be easily and reasonably accessible to the public, these are them. Many people who end up having involvement with Sparks Police are indigent, homeless, poor, and mentally vulnerable. This excessive fee is unreasonable for them, and it's unreasonable for me. I am asking you to please help me rectify this situation. I have no problem with the original fee of $55 that was quoted to me in a voicemail that I have saved on my phone. I can't help but feel the price change because Sparks PD does not want these documents to see the light of day. I hope I am wrong and that you will assist in this matter. The release of records at a legally reasonable fee is the best interest of the public. We are entitled to know about the ongoings of our government, federal and local. Your attention to the matter would be immensely appreciated.
Thanks, Teresa. Anyone else under public comment? Have no more speaking cards. We'll move into agenda. 5.1, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of Council Member Smith's request to reconsider the vote on item 9.4 of the August 13, 2018 City Council agenda, which rejected the contract with Signature Landscapes and directed the city manager to continue a month-to-month contract and revisit contract options. So, Mr. Manager, we're just looking for a motion here, right, correct, to reconsider?
That would be the outcome that we're looking for, yes.
Okay, someone want to make a motion, Mr. Smith?
I move to approve the request to reconsider the vote on item 9.4 of the August 13th, 2018 City Council agenda and hear the item at today's meeting, August 27th, 2018.
Second, Mr. Lawson?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve 5.1, consideration, discussion of possible approval of Council Smith's request to reconsider vote on 9.4 of the August 13th, 2018 City Council meeting. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, so we will take this up during the agenda. Okay, 5.2, approval of the agenda. Anyone want to change, take anything out of order or anything? Ms. Bybee?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Sure.
I move to accept the agenda as submitted today.
A second, Mr. Dare.
I second that.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve the agenda as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Minutes. 6.1, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of August 13th, 2018. Any omissions, deletions, or corrections? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 6.1, consideration of the City Council meeting of August 13th. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, moving right along. Presentation, adopt a vet dental program. Someone here to do that? Come on up, please. And just give us your name for the record And then, give us your spiel and tell us all about it, please. Yeah.
No, it's not on.
Has to be
There it is.
good. There it
Push?
Now it's good.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and the rest of you. For the record, my name is Linda Haig, and I'm founder of the Adopt-A-Vet Dental Program. With me today is Jim Snyder, a veteran advocate, a Marine, and a graduate of the Adopt-A-Vet Dental Program. There'll be a slight change in my presentation because we just found out last week that you do not receive monies for charities, so I'll be not asking for any financial support for our program. We are here today mainly to make you aware that we have an epidemic of oral health disease among our veterans in Northern Nevada. A shocking 90% of our veterans do not qualify for dental care because the qualifications are so restrictive. And yet 98% of our referrals come from the VA. Adopt-A-Vet Dental targets the very low-income veterans who cannot afford to see a dentist or qualify at the VA. They live every day with pain, abscesses, infections, and this really affects their overall health. We recruit dentists and specialists in the community to provide pro bono dental care to our veterans, and to date, 130 have stepped forward to help us with our veterans, and they have donated more than $5.2 million in donated services to our veterans. And they have helped over 1,000 veterans for the past 8 years. However, Adopt-A-Vet is responsible for all the dentures, the partials, the crowns, and the operation of our program. We have helped over 75 veterans in the Sparks area, and we currently have 12 that are waiting up to a year for dental care. The cost per veteran is $1,200. And I might say that they get full restoration, whatever it takes to get our veterans back smiling again. It's taken care of. It's just been quite remarkable, the response from the community. Our goal is to get our veterans out of pain, smiling again, and get them back into the community by working or volunteering. To our knowledge, there is no program like ours in the United States. In 2014, we received the Newman Zone and Fisher House Award for our innovative approach to dental care for our veterans. And Adopt-A-Vet is a program of the Northern Nevada Dental Health Programs, and that's the nonprofit arm of the Dental Society. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, my name's Jim Buzz Snyder, as you would know. I want to thank everybody for your time to listen to us today. As a veteran, it's really nice to see the outpouring of support that we receive, especially with the dental program. I started about 8 years ago. We call it a country song. I lost everything, the house, the dog, the family, everything. And the majority of the reason was my teeth. I have a nerve disorder within my jaw, and I lost almost everything. And yeah, there's the before and after, which is our moneymaker right there to show the difference. And as you can see, a goatee on majority of the veterans coming in, a goatee is everything because it covers your mouth. It covers your smile. You don't smile. So I came in here about 8 years ago, met Linda, and took me 18 months on the waiting list, and I was officially the only one she ever hung up the phone on because I was in so much pain. So I got the work done, and it has changed everything. I went to work for her, volunteered at first, and now work part-time as the advocate for the program. I talk to every veteran that comes in the program, and we just don't stop there. We work on the dental, then also we suggest them. We find other outlets for them like Honor Flight or different things that they could take advantage that we know. Our cooperation with the VA is excellent right now with the primary care. 98% of our veterans are referred by the VA. And as she said, we're aware that funding doesn't come from you guys, but we do believe in donations, and like we have golf tournaments, we have different ways to contribute as well. I take pride in the program because I see the difference. I see, as a Marine, I enjoy our Marine vets that come through. I'm not biased in any way, but when they come through and I see tears in their eyes, get in the car. I used to love driving the veterans that could not drive, and thank you, sir. We have buses. We have the RTC that gave plenty of bus tickets to us. And you pick them up and you see the tears in their eyes because for the first time in years, they can smile. And I think that means more than anything. And then when we hear stories about a veteran that went back to teaching high school because he can sit in front of the classroom where he didn't before. And then we hear, my favorites, of course, are the World War II veterans. We've helped over 35 World War II veterans. I myself is a resident of Sparks. I know how it's growing. I know what's happening here, and I see the influx of veterans coming from Sparks. So we're very excited that we're sitting here in front of you, letting you know that we are here to help, and we want to help, and we love having these veterans come in and help. But our World War II veterans are very precious to us, and their stories are amazing. And to find out that they can't get dental work at the VA, because only 10% of veterans are eligible at the VA. And it's not the VA's, I mean, it's just the funding part is why. So if you have any questions, we are more than happy to ask or answer your questions. I don't go by notes, so please.
Questions, Mr. Derrick?
Thank you guys for coming. It was nice to sit and chat with you the other day and
Absolutely.
hearing more about it. I think the biggest thing I want to say is thank you, because I know you are touching many, many people's lives, and teeth are one of those things that we don't mess around with. You can be in big trouble. But when is your next golf tournament, and how can somebody, if they, I think you have one coming up.
Yeah, September 21st.
September 21st. So if somebody wants to be involved, they would.
Call me at 470-8707 or go to nnDHP.org/event. And they can definitely get with us on that. We have, this year we have incredible Champion Chevrolet and Southwest Airlines came through with 4 tickets this year. So we're really excited what's going on. And we are growing, and I want to make this very clear, and this is what I love about it. We are so apolitical. We don't believe in one party or the other. We're so straight down the line, and it doesn't matter what race they are, what religion they are, or anything. Your teeth. I had a doctor at the VA tell me 75% of heart infections come from your teeth. And that blew me away when she told me that. Okay.
Mr. Smith?
Jim, thank you for your service, and Linda, thanks for what you're doing. This is a great program.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that these veterans that are coming in have been out of the service for a while. Because when I was in, they took care of your teeth for you. Is it changed?
Transition. You want me to answer?
Yeah, okay.
Well, the transition is you got 180 days. And if you don't take, you get them when you're done, like you said. When we transition out, they try to make sure they're done.
Okay.
Then you have 180 days.
After you
Right.
get released.
And you brought up an incredible point right now, is what's happening is the communication's not there. We talked to the VA primary care. They could not believe that so many veterans are missing that opportunity. That they're told that, but it's not emphasized. And so they lose that 180 days, they're done. They can't go back. They're on their own. And Linda can explain more on this, but the 1,000-mile stare is coming back with them. And we're facing these vets, that we really have to, have them man up a little, because they just have that blank stare that has just been, the last 4 of the younger generations that we've had that stare.
Right. The primary area that we've been helping is our Vietnam veterans. That's the majority. And it's been really an honor to serve them because they unfortunately were not very well received when they came home. So the majority of them Vietnam.
Even when they left.
Even when they left, absolutely. So, but it's been an honor to serve all of them, and they deserve this for serving their country. So it has been a wonderful program to really give back to our veterans.
So if I'm misunderstanding, then it's, so there is funding there if you can get the message out to the folks when they
No.
leave, that they have 180 days to
Yes.
take advantage of it. Is that correct?
In
Right.
the homeless.
Why it's
Then
so,
it's a matter of somebody getting to the veterans as they come out to let them know they have this problem, they have this.
It's part of the transition team, and being in the services you were stating is you're given that final transition, and then you're explain what benefits are available to you. And they have 2 funding programs. It's that, and then also for the homeless. But there's some serious issues with the homeless. We're taking a majority of the homeless too, because they're not getting in right away, or it's going by their steps is just a lot harder.
there's 3 criteria for qualifying at the VA. You have to be 100% service-connected disabled, injured in the jaw or the mouth while you were in service, or have been a prisoner of war. So you see, that leaves out the vast majority of our veterans not able to qualify.
Okay, that's qualifications.
Right, that's qualification for.
For us, we go by income, 150% above the poverty level. Then also we have, you got to be a Northern Nevada resident. Even though we get calls all over the country, where's our program? And then we trying with the South, it's just been a little bit difficult with that, trying to start something down south. But, and then you got to be 1 year in service. And then make sure no dental insurance. If you have dental insurance, we don't accept you.
Well, we can't do enough for the vets, and I want to thank you for what you guys do.
And we thank you with RTC. Wow, that was a nice thing.
So
Yeah.
if you come across a veteran that could use our services, please send them our way, and then we can take care of them.
Ms. Bybee?
Thank you for being here. And on that note, how do people contact you? Good contact information, phone number, address where you're located, website, whether they need services, they want to volunteer, or if somebody wants to donate to your program, whether it's another dentist or someone who just wants to provide donations other than your golf tournaments, they
Well,
can
the
donate.
2 best ways is
Just
call
call
at that
us.
number, 470-8707. And the other way, I'll go ahead and give my email for that, since I talk to everybody who comes in. It's jim.snyder@nndhp.org. That's November, Delta Hotel Pole.org.
Okay, thank you.
It's
How many dentists
confusing.
do you have involved in the program?
Well, right now we have 125 on the waiting list, and
How many dentists doing the work?
How many do we have? 130. And we service all of Northern Nevada, every county
That's great.
that they have stepped forward to help us. So we're
Even
very
Elko,
thankful.
yeah.
And Elko.
And I think I saw on television and Channel 2, I watched once in a while, and there was a dentist on there that does this every year. Michael Sala, I believe.
Yeah.
Sala
Right.
Dentistry was a friend of mine for a long time. Well, he went to Reno High the same time I went to Sparks High. We were kind of athletic adversaries and didn't like each other until we got to college. Met each other really for the first time and got to be very, very good friends. So I saw that on TV, and I know they did a lot of work for the veterans, so.
I think they do once a year.
Once a year,
For one
but
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it takes
Well,
all
it's a
of
great
us.
program. Thank you guys for
Thank you.
doing it. I mean, Ron's right. There's too many veterans left out of things. It's just sad. It really, it's sad. So we appreciate you doing this.
Thank you
Yeah,
for your
thank
time.
you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So let's move on to 7.2 presentation, Northern Nevada Hopes Organization.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. For the record, Kathy Cluett, Admin Analyst in the Manager's Office. I'm happy to be here today to introduce to you Sharon Chamberlain, who is the CEO of Northern Nevada Hopes. Sharon is here because she is working with Sparks PD on walking along the river and helping people down there. And this was at the request of staff that you understand and are aware of NV Hopes and of what they're doing here in Sparks. Thank you, Sharon.
Nice new building, by the way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and also to hear about this wonderful program that they were just telling us about. That's wonderful. So I want to start with a brief overview of Northern Nevada Hopes, if you're not sure about who we are, because we've grown a lot in the past few years. And then we'll wrap into the Syringe Services Program and hopefully address any questions that you have. Northern Nevada Hopes was founded all the way back in 1997. We have expanded to provide primary care, a lot of behavioral health services, psychiatry, therapy, in addition to medication-assisted treatment program and substance use counseling. And the idea of Northern Nevada Hopes was to be a very comprehensive, integrated model of care, which means that when you come in, we're not just addressing your primary healthcare need, which might be a chronic disease like diabetes or hypertension, but we're looking at a person in a very holistic fashion to address other items that might be challenging and keeping people from, receiving care and making the community healthier as a whole. These are our stats from the most recent fiscal year. So we had about 50,000 appointments last year. We've got, right now, actually, about 12,000 patients. And a lot of behavioral health. You all probably are well aware that there's a big provider shortage, both for primary care. The national benchmark is one provider to about 700 patients. And here in our community in Northern Nevada, we have one primary care for about almost 4,000 patients. Big primary care shortage, even harder when it comes to behavioral health and substance use. This is for our patients from Sparks. Individuals that travel to us down here in downtown Reno. We've got about 2,000 patients, and we're seeing that grow also. The medication-assisted treatment program works with people that are experiencing drug addiction and allows them to get access to medication in addition to behavioral health and psychiatry services. And we've really seen across the country a very significant positive outcome in individuals that have medication-assisted treatment with their drug addiction. And so we're happy to be one of the few in Northern Nevada that's supplying that now. Okay, so we'll get into our Syringe Services Program. We are called Change Point, the Harm Reduction Center. And we were the first in Nevada to get legal syringe services offered, and not yet, Governor Sandoval, he signed that that law into effect
He'll be pleased
a couple
that
of
you give
years
him a
ago.
promotion, though.
Yes, I know he will. So our Syringe Services Program, we work with people who inject drugs, and there's so much data around, and I think you might have some handouts, hopefully you can see on your iPads. So much data and evidence that syringe services programs actually work to bridge people who inject drugs with treatment facilities, in addition to allowing them to have access and build a relationship with individuals. And for us at Hopes, we can connect them directly into medical care and behavioral health services and drug treatment, detox and other in what's available in the community and what we have. Virtually every scientific body, the CDC, the AMA, the Pediatrics Association, every scientific body that has studied syringe services programs show that it's the #1 way to prevent the spread of HIV and hepatitis C. The reason that it has support from the National Council on Mayors, if I'm saying that correctly, the police, National Police Association, that's probably not right acronym, but some of these other groups is because it impacts first responders also. We see in communities that have syringe services programs available that it decreases the number of needle sticks for our police and other first responders, and we have a lot of data on that. So what we do is we provide clean syringes for individuals that come into the agency, and they register with our program. They're offered free HIV testing, free hepatitis C testing. We talk to them about linking them into our primary care services and talk to them if they're ready for treatment, then we certainly walk down that path with them also. We provide them with sterile syringes, and we also provide them with sharps containers, or also biohazard containers. We have these in multiple sizes, and some of them are small enough for people to carry in their backpacks, or on their bodies more easily than some of the larger sharps containers that you see. We also have several sharps containers that maybe you've noticed that they look like mailboxes. We have one on Hope's campus, and we have some at other locations, the county, et cetera, where people can drop off and dispose of their syringes. In addition to that, we will offer free naloxone, and this is for, as you all know, we have a big opioid crisis happening in our community, and we recognized and responded with assistance and requests from the state to provide naloxone to individuals. Naloxone is a drug that prevents overdoses. Sometimes we think that addiction and the people that we're talking about and the people that we're serving with our syringe services program are individuals that are only down by the river or only sitting on the street corner. Addiction touches everybody's lives. It really doesn't have any grace around socioeconomic status or anything else. Probably most people in this room would be able to raise their hand if we asked if they knew somebody that was struggling with addiction. We work with the Youth Offender Court in Reno also, and they work with us. And I'll tell you, the majority of those kids that end up in our medication-assisted treatment program got addicted because they were playing sports or some other injury that happened in high school, and are then prescribed painkillers, and then it escalates into full-fledged addiction. Part of what we see with syringe services programs is that there's an intervention there. Individuals aren't talking to their medical providers necessarily about their addiction and what they're struggling with. So to be able to have an RN, medical assistants, and community health workers staffing this program, individuals have an opportunity to really be honest and ask questions, learn how to be safer, and then access services when they are ready for that. Points, we exchanged and safely disposed of over 1.2 million needles last year. We test folks for HIV and work closely with our clients to ensure that people get and return their syringes, and want to work with the community to understand and think creatively about ideas on how to encourage individuals to exchange their used needles. This is just some information according to the CDC. You have a little bit more printed out on one of your attachments included with this, and these are pieces that we had talked about already. Questions?
Questions? Anybody have questions? Okay. Good job. Hopes, I know my wife used to volunteer there for a little bit, and I'm just happy to see the great new building you folks have. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Compared to where you were before, the new building is very, very nice. So really, it's a good addition to where it's at. It fits in very well, and it's a nice facility, so.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that, and congratulations and thank you for what you do. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, 7.3, presentation, EDON's annual update. I think I saw Mr. Kazmierski here somewhere. Michael? Hi, Mike, come on down. Welcome.
Mayor, council members. You have you need flash? Oh, just start. I'm not trained on this equipment.
Well, it's about time, I think.
I guess. 7 go-arounds now. Perfect. Thank you. Or did you want to pass these out too? And first, Mayor, council members, it's a pleasure to be here. We've had another great year in the region from an economic development perspective, and it's really all about teamwork. And we want to thank the City of Sparks for being such an important part of our team. Work closely with the city manager and the staff here at Sparks on a lot of the issues we're working on, and Steve was part of our executive team for 2 years, so it's an important contribution to the board as well. So with that, I'd like to just give you a quick update. I think you may be aware of some of this already. And for those of you who've been around for a while, you've seen some of these slides before. Of course, the information is updated on a regular basis, but I want to get through this quick in case you have any questions. First, we focus on the 3 legs of economic development, but we've added community development in as a more important part of going forward, and workforce development is important for all 3 legs of our economic development as we grow the economy with quality jobs. This is an important metric in that it shows prospects are still visiting, and our goal was to get prospect visits up to the 8 to 10 range. We're just a little bit below that average so far this year, which is fine. We'd like things to cool down a little bit as we go forward. Let us digest some of our successes over the past several years. As you can see, the job numbers continue to go up this past year. Our announced jobs are a little over 2,000. Our target was between 2,000 and 2,500. Again, the goal was, let's not bring as many jobs in, let's bring in the higher paying jobs, the jobs that will allow us to continue to develop and innovate in our economy. You can see the Tesla announcement highlighted there. A lot of people say this has something, is really focused on Tesla, but the reality is that's less than 4% of the workforce in the region. And we had a lot of success before, and we'll continue to have success after. So Tesla is a part of our community, but the reality is it's a small part of the total job count. Clearly, the unemployment was an issue several years ago. That's no longer a problem. We're at pretty much full employment now, which is very exciting. If someone wants to get a job, we've got education programs, get them trained up and get them a quality job now. That was not the case even just a few years ago. It's not slowing down, however. We are continuing to work with great companies looking at our region. Manufacturing was our target early on. We thought if we could bring advanced manufacturing to this region, advanced manufacturing being robotics, coders, software engineers, things that are very much a part of the manufacturing process now in the 21st century, we could help build a base for technology. That, in fact, has been true. Our technology companies are now more interested in us now than ever, and yet we still bring in more and more manufacturing. Distribution continues to be a core part of our community, but we've actually had to turn some away when they come in and say, well, we're looking for $12 an hour jobs, and we say that doesn't happen here anymore. So if you're not paying 18 to 20 in the distribution area, you're probably not going to be able to be successful. So we'd rather have them go somewhere else than come here and fail. And so we do discourage companies from coming. Our distribution, when I got here, was $9 to $10 an hour average wage. So pretty exciting to see an industry that's that important have a doubling of their average wage. Some people say, okay, when's it going to slow down? And the blue line is what we projected in the EPIC report 4 years ago now, almost 4 years, with a lot of help from a lot of people. Those not involved in the process thought we were way too optimistic, and as you can see, we're clearly on trend line. We projected a flattening after the Tesla ramp up, and the reality is we're in the process of renewing and updating the EPIC study. We think that line is going to continue to go up even beyond what we projected. The good news here is 2 years ago, our average wage of the companies we announced was at $36,000. This past year, we're up to 53. Our goal going forward is 55. That's a 38% increase so far, and we think it'll, if we can get to our goal next year, it'll be over a 40% increase in just 2 years. And those are the kinds of companies that are new to our community, that are growing in our community. Of course, they cause pressure on the entire workforce. If you tried to hire someone here at the city, you probably would agree it's a little bit harder to hire people now at the wages we hired just a few years ago. Our priorities continue to be higher paying jobs. We do set a benchmark. We're targeting something unheard of, $30 an hour as our target for what we're trying to bring into the community. We reduced our goal. We look at technology companies now more than ever in corporate headquarters as well. You can see manufacturing at the bottom there is very sophisticated. A lot of people say we're growing way too fast. If you look back 17 years from where we were and you look at our estimates on population forward 17 years, it's pretty much the same. Now you have some big ups and downs in that process, but when you smooth it out over a period of time, you can see we're really not, it's not a dramatic change than what we've had in the past. The companies we worked with over the last several years, Reno obviously has the most business parks near the metro area. Sparks, as you know, full and not enough, which is part of the reason why we've encouraged support for the lands bill and some of the other things to help add more industrial land for the city of Sparks going forward. Story County, hard to believe. Everyone wants to talk about why that's saved this entire region, but yet it's only 17% of the companies that actually go to Story County. The Sparks projects, you've seen this list before, and it's just a reminder. You can see what has come to the city of Sparks. It's not a huge number, but some great companies, companies like Now Foods and others that really are the backbone of the community in many ways. We've added a couple from Spanish Springs, in part because it's hard to find industrial land in the city limits anymore. That's just outside the city limits. That's really an area that we're seeing more and more investment, and we've got quite a few prospects looking at that as well. If you look at attraction, we're pretty excited about what we've done, but really it's more important to keep the companies we have here happy and help them be successful. So Nancy McCormick and her team do that on a regular basis. Visiting with companies, some of you have joined her in some of those visits. The companies we have here have one concern, and that's workforce. And 5 years ago, they had a lot of other concerns, but workforce seems to be their number one concern. So we've really pushed much harder on workforce now. These are the areas the expansion team works on, but our focus has been probably 60% of that team now is workforce. Retaining our existing workforce, training people and working with our partners in the education world, connecting all the many organizations that are addressing workforce, and then ultimately attracting. And we have an initiative to attract workforce to the region that deals with the 8 major education institutions in Sacramento. We think we can get more and more of them in. This talks to entrepreneurial success, that third leg that really no one really understands unless you're in it. They're a little strange at times. Those are the companies of the future. Entrepreneurs need to be around entrepreneurs. It causes energy. It allows them to grow companies. And when you see that list, 49 new companies, sounds like a huge number until you look at the number of jobs. 182 jobs is not much for 49 companies. One of those companies we brought in was 2 people. They're now at 50 and their average wage is $75,000. Bombora. And we have others like that. So we're seeding these companies, as many as we can, and with the right kind of support systems in the community, we have the potential to grow the next Tesla here. Some of the programs the entrepreneurial team supports, mentoring programs, funding programs, helping connect them to venture capital and other capital that allows them to be successful, and then some of the companies we attracted and helped grow here organically. I mentioned community development before. We're spending more and more time on community development. We're ultimately salespeople for the region. When you talk about attraction, the product has got to be something that people want to buy. And if you're in Alaska selling icebergs, you've got a tough job ahead of you. Well, we're not quite in that role now, but we do have some things we have to, as a community, do better if we're going to bring in these tech companies, bring in these higher paying jobs. So we've looked at some of those. We led the initiative on WC1, the School Infrastructure Initiative, which was successful.
in bringing a fair amount of funding in to build new schools and to totally redo our existing schools. Everyone would agree that was long overdue. Arts and culture, we have an event, our third annual Business and Arts Awards Luncheon on the 13th of September. We'd encourage you to join us. Sparks was a part of the process. I'd like to thank Council Member Bybee for her personal participation in that process. We're recognizing and helping support the arts and culture of the region so that we can be more attractive to companies in the future. Trails plan we're working on, traffic issues, regional flood, we're leading and very much a part of WC1 2.0, I guess you want to call it. It's the flood, hopefully the flood initiative. We will come by and give you a presentation here in the next couple of weeks at one of your council meetings, just to talk about the plan, where we're going, how we're doing that. We have assembled a fantastic team. We're now in the fundraising mode. We've got messaging done. That thing's rolling out. It's, some people will call it a snowball's chance in hell, but we're going to give it our best shot because it's important that we as a community take seriously the threats of flooding. And
Well, you've been there before, Mike, so we know, we trust you.
we are going to take this one on, and we're going to do our best to get it over the goal line. It's possible, and I guess anything is possible. So we're excited to be able to give it a shot. I think at the end of the day, it was interesting. I read in the paper today where if you look at some of the communities hit by hurricanes, they finally decided to fix some of their infrastructure with major repairs that if they had done a few years ago, they would have saved a lot of lives and a huge amount of damage. We're in that same role, and we just need the community to understand now is our time. So we'll work on that. We're going to carry that forward. Transitional housing is important as part of the homeless issue and a part of the overall support for helping people get housing as our housing prices go up. So we're helping be a part of that. Transitional dorms on Sage Street. I think they have an event next Tuesday or Wednesday to roll out. The trucks are actually bringing in some of the transitional housing, so that'll be a great event. And then the alternate route, we are pushing for additional access from east to west outside the interstate, and this is one of the routes we looked at, and we're continuing to work with NDOT and our partners to see what we can do to help move forward plans to. This is the route from the north. We're looking at a route from the south. We're looking at widening the interstate as well. Just some of the things we're doing in addition to basic economic development. So I'll close with a thanks. The city of Sparks has always been great partners, shoulder to shoulder with us in making this region great. Mayor, I want to thank you for your regional focus and your leadership. It's been something that I've leaned on many times, and we certainly appreciate that. And then obviously the staff, the city manager and staff have been fantastic, as well as Councilmember Bybee on our board, Councilmember Lawson on our board at times, and others that have participated in things that we've done as an organization. So with that, we request retaining funding at the current level as we go forward. Our needs are great. What this community has become is exciting, but where we're going is even more important, and we're glad to be a part of it.
Questions, Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to make a comment on the flood project and the needs committee. I think I'm qualified to do that. I don't want to miss the opportunity. I know you'll do this in your presentation. A reason why the people in Sparks should vote for this is because they'll get a rebate of about $23 million. That'll reduce your sewer rates until that's gone. And plus there's $180 million of federal money out there. If it doesn't pass, that money goes away. And we can't afford to let it get away because we were the only entity to step up and fund the North Truckee Drain. That's right. Thanks, Mike.
Hear, hear, Mr. Smith.
Hear, hear, Mr.
You
Mayor.
are qualified to talk about it.
I can't talk about it.
I think I am qualified too, since I started 19 years ago on the flood deal, and it's.
You're the reason. You're the reason.
Actually, I started when I was about 5 years old in the 50s, so, and the first time I remember a flood coming to Sparks, and then there was two of those in the 50s, one in the 60s, and I tell people I've been through 600-year events, 6 100-year events. They're not all 100 years, but the numbers are better that way. But I'm not 600 years old, so I can't do the math on why we have 6 floods of 100 years, but it all works out. So yeah, we've had a lot of floods, and the people of Sparks should be very anxious to vote on this. Not only them, but the whole region. We need to get this done, and I know you'll do a good job, Mike. Thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Bybee? Go ahead.
Mike, I just wanted to thank you for being here, and it's been a pleasure serving on the board, on the EDON board, representing the city of Sparks. I'm impressed monthly with every board meeting we have to really see the teamwork of your staff, of the members of that board, of the variety of large and small businesses, some long time here, some new. It's just an education every time I'm at an EDON board meeting and at your events to learn more about how we together as a region can address this growth, can make it, it's nothing but positive, and really kudos to your whole staff, because all of those legs of the stool are so important, critically important, to bring businesses here, to keep them here. And I think all of us, and I think I speak for the city too, the workforce piece and the housing piece are two big issues that I don't think anyone in the region can deny is a challenge, and I think all of us working together can find some solutions. So thank you.
Mr. Dare.
Just appreciate your team, getting to see them out there, Nancy and Stan and all those guys. They're doing a fantastic job. And the workforce portion of working in the schools, and I just making sure we continue to open those doors. And I know you guys are working as hard as you can, putting stuff out there, but I know that as Sparks goes, if there's anything we can continue to do to definitely help support that. We have a lot of jobs more coming, but it won't do any good if we don't have people to actually fill them. So, but thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Okay, let's move on to 7.4. Presentations, arguments for and against state ballot question number 3. Amendment to the Nevada Constitution, shall Article 1 of the Nevada Constitution be amended to require the legislature to provide by law for the establishment of an open, competitive retail electricity energy market that prohibits the granting of monopolies and exclusive franchises for the generation of electricity. Now, I want to mention this is presentation item only. The council will not deliberate or take a position one way or another as a council. But this is just a presentation to let people know out there what's going on with question 3 and why we should vote no, yes or no. So take it away, Kathy.
Once again, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. For the record, Kathy Cluett, City Manager's Office. I'm happy to be here today to introduce the no and yes on 3 question coalition groups as requested by Council. Each side has submitted slides for you to look at for more backup information. And I think what they're really looking for is having an enlightening discussion with you and just kind of doing things more that way, but you'll have time with both sides. The first to present will be Mike Roberson, Coalition to Defeat Question 3. Mr. Roberson will be followed by Ryan Cherry on the yes on 3, and then after Mr. Cherry's presentation is complete, they'll both be sitting up here, so you can be asking them questions. They're both going to be in the room and sitting here at the dais for you. So with that, here is Mike Roberson.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, for allowing me to be here today. As she said, I'm Mike Roberson. I'm with the Coalition to Defeat Question 3, and I just want to share some of the concerns that we have about this. If you listen to our opposition on this, you'll hear a lot of rhetoric, even in the measure itself, about choice, about competition, about freedom for people. It sounds good to a lot of folks. It's a story that a lot of folks want to believe, but just like that latest health and fitness scam out there where folks will promise you can lose 50 pounds without having to change your lifestyle, unfortunately, it's just not true. What we're really talking about here, once you strip away all the rhetoric, we're being asked to invest $4 billion into a new deregulated system in partnership with the state of California. It's going to mean higher rates for consumers. It's going to mean less renewable energy, less job growth and business development. And we're going to lock all of this down into our Constitution. So if you take the rate piece of it and you look at the real facts on what we pay for electricity here, our rates are 17% below the national average. They're 30% below the average deregulated market. There's not a single deregulated market in these United States that pays less for electricity than what we currently pay in Nevada. If you look at the PUC report that was published in April of this year, the consensus was that rates would go up for at least the first 10 years if this measure was implemented. If you look at Texas, they've been deregulated 20 years. Their rates are doubling this summer. So this, in addition to the plethora of consumer complaints that occur in a deregulated market where you've got hundreds of companies trying to compete as middlemen in a commodity market with no differentiation. These rate increases are why the AARP has been one of the most outspoken partners and supporters of the coalition in working to defeat this measure. Take a look at the renewable piece, and a lot of talk again from both sides, but I'd ask you to look at our endorsements. People like the Sierra Club, people like the Western Resource Alliance, Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, Congresswoman Dina Titus, Assemblyman Chris Brooks, people, really anyone who cares about renewables in our state has come out as a no on this. From the rooftop solar aspect, this is gonna basically throw those people to the wolves. They're gonna, instead of having a legislated net metering system, they're gonna have to compete and sell their energy back on an open market. Nobody wants to come here and pay people retail rates for energy. They're not gonna pay people more than what they could buy or produce that energy for themselves. So we think that's gonna really negatively impact rooftop solar. If you look at the big renewable picture, there's currently plans in place to build 6 new solar sites, 3 up north, 3 down south, 1,001 megawatts, so call it a Baker's gigawatt of power. It's enough for 600,000 homes here in Nevada. One of those projects, the Wadsworth plant, would have a economic impact on the Sparks area right here. These projects will not be allowed to go forward in the event question 3 passes. Only one of the 6 would go forward. And there's no guarantee that these projects would continue. In fact, the uncertainty around this would guarantee that they're not going to continue, that no one else is going to want to come in and pick these projects up. So you look at, that as one piece of economic development, but you can think about how this is going to impact the entire big picture there from jobs. It was great to hear all the wonderful work that EDON is doing and see the path that we're on here in Nevada. Nothing can kill that like uncertainty, and there'll be a ton of uncertainty around this. When the opposition speaks, I think it'll be clear that there's no plan behind what they want to do. This is simply pass this as a constitutional amendment and kick it over to our legislature. Let the legislature and the courts work it out. It's a monumental task. So 120 days every other year, our legislature can get about 500 pieces of legislation done. They've already identified over 2,200 pieces of legislation that would need to be, repealed, replaced, amended, somehow altered if this were to pass. So you're talking about jamming 10 years of legislative work into under a 5-year period, and we're asking these folks to get this exactly right and not have any ambiguity out there for the courts to have to deal with. I think this stifles growth here in the period that we're working this out, in another 5 years past that, as the courts are trying to figure out what the laws the legislature made are really telling us. So for all of those reasons, I would ask you guys to be no voters on this, and encourage friends, family, colleagues, other folks to vote the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So, you want to ask a question now? Why don't we wait for questions? Let's get both sides of the story and then ask questions, if that's okay with you guys.
That's fine.
Okay, so let's get the this is the four argument? Okay. Just, well, you know the drill. What's your name for the record, and you're on your way.
For the record, my name is Ryan Cherry. I'm with Yes on 3, or otherwise known as Nevada's for Affordable Clean Energy Choices. So what is question 3? Question 3 is a constitutional amendment to end the utilities monopoly on electricity generation. And in its place, it would guarantee Nevadans 3 basic rights. 1, the right to generate their own electricity. That's similar to rooftop solar programs here. 2, participation in the competitive market. And 3, to join with others to aggregate, to purchase directly from the wholesale market, taking out that retail markup completely. That is evidenced by innovative thinking like community solar It's similar to co-op models now, where they're able to combine outside of the utility service territories to purchase energy from the wholesale markets and provide it to their membership. And then another example of that that we want to put on the record for it is Switch. So Switch has announced that underneath question 3, you could purchase from them, from their Gigawatt Nevada program, 100% renewable energy for 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour. That's available to residential customers, commercial customers, as well as industrial customers. Right now, underneath the the utility model, only those industrial customers who can pay the millions of dollars to exit the grid are able to apply for those rates. If you wanted to buy, for example, as a residential customer, 100% renewable energy underneath NV Energy's plan, you have to pay a 4-cent green rider tariff on top of the residential rates. So you're going to be paying north of 16 cents a kilowatt hour for something you could access underneath question 3, according to Switch, for a third of that price. That's the innovation that we want to see. There are some caveats to that. You have to combine to purchase in bulk from wholesale markets. So you'll need to have residents combine into larger than 1 megawatt hour or 1 megawatt of power to purchase, but that is something that you can do underneath question 3. And the third thing that the initiative does is it requires rules and regulations governing those competitive markets to be in place by July 1st, 2023. You're going to hear the other side say that the market has to be in place by 2023. Nowhere in the language is that made clear. What is made clear is that the rules and regulations have to be in place. As a matter of fact, we believe in a transition process similar to one I'm going to outline right now, in which the utility is allowed to access the full life of their generation assets as they currently exist, as well as their power purchase agreements, and let them expire. We believe that that would get them below a 50% market share in 10 years after after question 3 would be put in place. And then that they would be, how you would do that is by allowing customers, we'd have to place in the statute a rule that said customers must be allowed to exit NV Energy service territory as power purchase agreements as well as their generation assets expire. And so instead of them going to the PUC and saying, hey, we have to go through a process to acquire more energy to meet the needs of our customers, we believe that the statute should require them to allow their customers to leave and enter into these aggregating opportunities or to enter the competitive market in exchange for that. So instead of building up their load, as they would continue to do so, if they continue to exist, you're going to see their load continue to drop slowly. And over a period of time, it'll get to a point. I got to make it very clear as well that they are not required to not compete in the market. They would have to create a separate entity to compete in the market if they contained the lines and wires. So they will continue to manage our lines and wires underneath question 3. And all we don't want is that same company that runs the lines and wires to also participate in the generation market, because then they can use the rates that are paid to them for lines and wires and transmission services to offset their costs in the generation markets. We don't want that. That creates an unfair advantage in a competitive market. That's the only thing that we wouldn't want to see. And so we believe in that transmission process, that forcing them to release their customers who want to participate in another thing will bring their load down. And so over a period of time, probably 15 to 25 years, as all their power purchase agreements and their generation assets expire, we'll get to a fully competitive marketplace, as well as allow people to enter into aggregation to purchase from the wholesale market. So why do we support question 3? Why do we support Energy Choice from Yes on 3's perspective? Lower power bills. What they've mentioned before is, yes, Nevada does have lower rates than other markets and competitive markets across the nation. But what they don't say is that when they were utility markets, their rates were much, much higher. On average, in competitive markets across the nation, you've seen a 14% reduction in rates from the time that they were monopoly service markets. In that same period of time, the 35 states that are monopoly service markets average a 5% increase in rates on their ratepayers. For example, Nevada since 2000 has seen 50% rate increases over the last 20 years on retail or on their ratepayer base. We also support it for more renewable energy. NV Energy does say, hey, we're going to do 6 projects that are going to amount to greater than 1 gigawatt of renewable energy development in the foreseeable future to meet load from their ratepayers. What they don't talk about is what's happening in the private sector right now, which is something similar that's going to happen in competitive markets. You have 3 entities who have combined announced nearly 2 gigawatts of renewable energy development in the foreseeable future. Now, those are only accessible now by industrial customers. Gigawatt Nevada is one of them. There's Gemini producing energy down on southern Nevada. That's 590 gigawatts, I believe, 690 gigawatts, and then another project, which is escapes me right now, that's 500 gigawatts. So you're seeing the private sector who's already building out renewable energy. There's a crave for renewable energy. Solar is cheaper than natural gas right now. It's 2.1 cents a kilowatt hour on average right now in the wholesale market. Natural gas is around 3 cents. And then you also see renewable contracts like those from hydropower down in Las Vegas, or the Hoover Dam, that are cheaper than those even more. We also believe in the jobs that would be produced by question 3. A study done by John Restrepo of RCG Economics in Southern Nevada in conjunction with UNLV found that if question 3 passes, that clean energy jobs in Nevada's clean energy sector would grow by more than 35,000 above their expected rate between 2023 and 2033. Those are both direct and indirect impacts. So you're going to see construction administrative jobs in those renewable energy industries, as well as ancillary jobs, supply chain jobs. And the anticipated revenue impact for the construction is between $50 and $150 million in direct revenue labor impacts. The one big reason, and I'll disclose to you, the first time this came up, I did vote against it. I didn't have a big understanding of what was going on. I was afraid of change too. But as I worked on the Governor's Committee for Energy Choice, I was Chief of Staff for Lieutenant Governor Hutchison in my just immediately prior life, and I was a Senior Staff for the Committee on Energy Choice. We started hearing all these numbers about job development, creation, and then looked at the revenue impacts. And one of the things that was brought to our attention in the committee was over earnings from NV Energy. So this is an important thing. Just in Southern Nevada alone, from 2015 to 2017, NV Energy over-earned from Nevada ratepayers $232 million, above and beyond their guaranteed rate of return of nearly 10%. They say that costs are going to go up on Nevada ratepayers transitioning to a market. But I got to tell you, if you're looking at margins in a competitive market, they're about 3 to 4%. Balance that against a 10% rate of return on generation investments in Nevada and over earnings of $232 million. I say it's going to be pretty hard for us to expend more than that in a transition period to the market. Choices. Free markets lead to innovation and competition. That's my personal belief. It's not realized underneath monopoly structures. The innovations and competition in this measure that will result from competitive markets, consumer aggregation, are going to drive down rates. We are certain of that. Look no further than the breakup of the telecom industry, for examples. This led to major impact and cost reductions when they broke down, and it also led to technological innovations, such as cell phones. We are where we are today because of the breakdown of a monopoly when it comes to our communications process, and that is very much possible underneath Energy Choice as well. And that will end my presentation, but I really want to address some things that were said. So investing $4 billion, I want you to know as Nevada ratepayers, that $4 billion is already saddled on your backs. That's the utilities model. Investments that they make in physical generation assets are paid upfront and guaranteed by ratepayers. So they will collect that $4 billion from you moving forward, regardless of whether we do. It's the time period that changes, whether it's upfront or not. And we believe with our transition process, where you allow them to be held harmless and transition over a period of 15 to 20 years, that takes that number down to 0. They said this deregulated market is cheaper than any other, or this utility market is cheaper than any other deregulated market. Again, that is true based on the information that is available from the Energy Information Administration. But what is not true is that they're making comparisons of apples and oranges. Comparing the market costs for Nevada to those on the East Coast or to those from other Western states that have requirements from the legislatures that boost their energy prices very high is like comparing buying a house in Sparks to buying a house in Hawthorne, Nevada, and expecting to get the same square footage price on those purchases. You cannot compare markets that are not amongst each other. You can compare a monopoly and a restructured market of the same area, but you can't compare this market to any other market on there. You have to wait until you would see what happened underneath the restructured price to make that comparison fairly. Utility markets, comp markets, co-op markets, we believe, they mentioned Texas rates. Texas is not a fully choice state. When they want to talk about the increase in costs, I challenge you to go look at Texas's information. When they're talking about the markets, you're seeing spikes in the co-op markets, in the utility markets, not just in the competitive markets. It is not what we're looking at doing here in Nevada, and it is representative of a scare tactic. And the renewable piece. They talked about these companies that come out to them, but I want to talk to you about SWEET. The Southwest Energy Efficiency Project is modeled after going after utilities and making sure they do energy efficiency measures and stuff. If there was no longer a utility market in Nevada, I'd ask you, where do you think the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project goes if they don't have a utility to target? We have competitive markets that we're going to have to work with and legislatures that are going to have to be transparent and move forward in a transparent fashion to make sure that consumer protections are addressed that would handle any of those associated costs. And then the last thing I'll go over is the 2200 language or statutes that we have. They were identified by the PUC, the chapters that need to be addressed. We are aware of that. 22,000 bills or 2,200 bills is a large number of bills, but you're not going to, and as you as council members know, that you don't address ordinances or statute one bill for each section. You're going to be able to combine chapters of the statute and make the changes necessary over a 5-year period. And it's not just the legislature that's making those changes. The legislature is going to challenge the PUC, their staff, to make sure that they go into the statute and give them recommendations moving forward in the best interests of Nevadans. They're going to do that in conjunction with the Attorney General's office and their Bureau of Consumer Protection, as well as the PUC's Bureau of Protection. And so with that said, I'm happy to take questions up here with Mike.
Okay, in all due respect, in the thing of fairness here, I want to let Mike come down and rebut what Mr. Cherry, is it, said?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cherry said, I'll give you a few minutes to do that since we gave him 3 or 4 minutes to rebut your comments. If you want to rebut his, then we'll take questions. Are we okay with that, Steve? Attorney?
Fine, sure.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
All right, I won't take too much of your time here. I'll let you guys sort of direct this as you want to with your questions. You know, in terms of comparing rates, I think everybody compares rates. When we look at economic development, having a cheap rate here, that's the reason why people want to come to Nevada, not come to, you know, California when they're doing their business. We're all about wanting to keep those rates low and attractive for people. Again, a lot of what I hear is wishful thinking from the yes side on this, that, you know, this is how we're going to do this or not do this. We really don't know what it's going to look like. This is a constitutional amendment. It's going to kick it over to the legislature with a, you know, awfully big workload, however you want to, you know, combine and slice that. And there's no guarantee that anything you know, coming out of the end of that process is going to be the way that Mr. Cherry envisions that, or proponents of this measure would like it to go. I don't buy a shirt without seeing it first. We're being asked to sign off on something, pass it, and then trust that things are going to be done and implemented in a certain way when the yes side can't guarantee that's going to happen.
Okay, questions. I think Mr. Smith was first to ring in, and then we'll go from there.
If I may, one more point. These 35,000 jobs, our current utility customer, or current utility has 2,500 employees that service 90% of the state. There's real jobs, around 1/3 of those folks that are going to be looking for a job if this passes. I've yet to see this report on these 35,000 jobs or where they're going to come from. I don't know if this is lobbyists or call centers in Houston that are going to telemarket all this to us, but I think that's a rubbish figure.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple questions. First of all, Mike, is there anything in the Nevada State Constitution now that regulates Nevada energy?
Constitutionally, no. They're legislated by our Public Utility Commission.
Okay, then, so why would we put this in our Constitution?
So you're not putting anything in your constitution but the guarantee of rights. And a big reason for the guarantee of rights is if you look at the rooftop solar battle, where people were putting in rooftop solar installations on their house, and then all of a sudden that process was shut down at the PUCN. So, and with advocates from NV Energy working towards that. And so it would also guarantee that those rights are in place in a competitive market. So that no longer could a retail electric provider or a utility say, hey, you don't have access. It guarantees your right to sell energy back into it. If you look at Section 2 of the language, it's all the rights for the Constitution, are in the Constitution for consumers of energy, which it guarantees them the right to sell energy back into the market through rooftop solar is the reference for.
So the only thing that's changing is the right for them to sell the energy that they
It would
produce.
be a right for them to enter into a competitive market, a right for them to produce their own energy through rooftop solar and sell it back to the market, or to join with others to aggregate and buy directly from a wholesale market. Those are the three rights that are being guaranteed in this constitutional measure.
Okay, my second question, Ryan, you mentioned transmission lines, that if this passes, yes on 3 passes, that all of these new retailers will be using the transmission lines that are currently owned by Nevada Energy, correct? But you don't want them to be able to use those lines to sell electricity.
No, they can. They just can't have the same entity that manages those lines managing their generation assets, so they can't commingle the monies that are available for it. If you imagine what would happen in the competitive marketplace, it's similar to what happens in Massachusetts. They use it as a negative against question 3 earlier in February, but Massachusetts found that the utility was offsetting the cost of its price of its competitive the utility was offsetting its competitive energy prices by taking all the transmission costs that the other retail electric providers were paying it and artificially lowering its rate. And then it set the smaller companies who couldn't compete into deceitful practices, essentially going door to door and saying, hey, we need this, because they're trying to make their business market move. So we don't want to see something similar to that. We want transparency in place, and we want no commingling of funds, so they can't artificially.
And for me, I think that's called competition, whatever advantage they can get. But just any company in the world, they have several departments. One handles administration, one handles sales, one handles accounts payable, whatever it happens to be. What would be the difference here?
So I just would say it's a business model that NV Energy went through, and the first time this was deregulated, they already had an acquisition arm that was separate from their main company, their lines and wires company, during that period, if you look back at the first attempt at this in 1997.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Nair?
One of the questions I have, and I think it's been alluded to, but I just want to try to understand it, is the actual asset fee that will end up being hit. Obviously, we are paying that month to month. I think you referred to that we're going to pay it anyway. But at the same time, all of a sudden, that seems like we're going from something that, in my brain, is a long stretched out thing we're going to pay to something that now we're going to have to wait some time before we actually see our rates go down. All of a sudden, our rates are going to go up, it would seem. And between that and then having so many different players in the game, it's one thing to have one player that we're working on the price and doing that, but talk to me about the idea that, bringing in, you have NV Energy still having the infrastructure freeway of it all, then you have somebody bringing in this, and then we have impact fees. I just am trying to, in my mind, figure out how it could possibly be more inexpensive with having that many players and the impact fees as well.
So for impact fees in a competitive market moving forward, once NV Energy the impact fees that you pay are to offset the load that they have when a large consumer leaves. So they have a load that we'd have to pay for that they may not be able to sell to customers in our market. That's why you pay an impact fee, is in order to offset any financial losses that they would have currently. If you let them, through our transition process, reach the end of their contracts, their power purchase agreements, and the end of the lifetime on their generating assets, and require them to allow customers to exit, those impact fees wouldn't be there. They'd be zeroed out already at that point in time. So that's why we believe that transition is one of the good goals that we would work towards in implementing legislatively.
Do you have a comment on that, Mike?
I'm not quite sure I understand what Ryan just tried to explain to everybody. I look at, I think he's sort of muddying the water. You've got the stranded asset cost when the power company and the rural co-ops are forced to divest that we're talking about. And then you've got exit fees that are in place through statute now, where anyone buying over a megawatt of power can exit. It's not just that the load is going off when somebody builds a new casino down on the strip and they use more power in a week than Winnemucca does in a year. There's a lot of cost for putting that infrastructure in. So that's paying back all the ratepayers the cost of what it took to get them set up with electricity.
Is that a question? Okay, Mr. Lawson?
Ryan, this one's for you. Can you tell me a state where deregulation has resulted in lower rates for the consumers? On all of your stuff, I haven't seen any of that.
Well, so in lower rate, so what is confusing right now is that No on 3 says that no state has a lower cost right now based on Nevada. But if you look over a period of time, specifically the study that we have on available and referenced on here, if you look at the second page of the packet that I provided you, this is the real price change. This is from the Energy Information Administration. So this is the Department of Energy. So from 2008 through 2015, these markets had a 14% rate reduction in their market. That's real price change for competitive markets, while utility markets on average across the nation saw an increase of 5%.
So that has a list of states. I didn't get to your.
From the EIA.gov, you can access that and see all of the information that was used to build this. It looks at rates from each state from 2008 to 2015 and shows you the trends on it. And we can provide that study directly to you for review if you'd like. It was done by the Retail Energy Suppliers Association.
And just a comment, and you, obviously you know a lot what you're talking about. I haven't spent the time, as I will tell you, 95% of my constituents haven't spent the time to delve into this. And you confused me. It was pretty easily, I got lost during your presentation. But I see, for me, I'm worried about seniors and people in the older generation. I think there's a huge opportunity for fraud here in that, well, give me your proxy because we're going to go buy electricity together, but I may not deliver on that price and you may end up paying a higher rate. And how do you address the fraud portion of this?
Well, we believe that a very strong consumer protections would have to be put in place. That 100% transparency would have to be put in place. That is something that has failed in other competitive markets. You can't see what other retail electric providers are offering in terms of prices. One of the things that I recommend you look at is the Texas Power to Choose website, which shows you everybody's available prices that they could go to. It also, there are a lot of contracts that are available. They could choose 3-month, 6-month contract. They could determine whether they wanted to buy 100% renewable energy or the cheapest energy through that process. And it's all open and transparent, and it's operated by the state. And we advocate for the same thing, that a state-run agency, essentially whether it's the PUC or another agency, would look at all of those rates and put together a website so everybody can make free and fair comparisons between what they're trying to look at. We also recommend that there is a one-time, it's black and white in terms of the regulations on these guys. When you license a retail electric provider, they have one chance. If they mess up one time, they are done and out of the market. There should be no gray area on this, and that is necessary for competitive markets to be good and for fraud to be limited.
So let me also run this question by you're saying this would be a 10-year transition, 10-year plus?
So the only thing that's required by the statute is that the rules and regulations governing the competitive portion of the market are in place by July 1st, 2023. We could change this. We just gave you a transition period example in our testimony so you could see, but you could change this in order to zero out the cost of transitioning this market to make sure that Nevada ratepayers aren't forced to pay for something upfront rather than over the period of time that they're already committed to it.
So, and that begs the question then, we will have transitioned in that 10-year period all of our current legislators out of Carson City. So you're gonna have to explain this again to the next batch.
Well, and that's what
There's
we have a
some flaws
citizen.
here I see, and I'm not picking on you.
Nope, I
I'm
get
just seeing, I'm looking at the places where the fraud is easily inserted, because it will happen. You can't legislate morals. You can't legislate people to do the right thing.
But the rules and regulations concerning fraud and abuse will have to be put in place by July 1st, 2023. Okay. Those rules will have to be in place. And that's something that right now our citizen legislature doesn't say, well, I'm an energy expert, I'm going to put statute in place and change it from now to now. They rely on the experts at the PUCN to look at that. They also rely on the Consumer Bureau of Protection through the Attorney General's office to do this. And a lot of those folks have spent much of their career in those offices. So there's a lot of technical knowledge. There were only 3 consumer advocates that I met throughout the entire process of this energy choice conversation who have been there since 1997. So they're long-term jobs and they will likely.
You were also in Carson City, so you know they don't get the bill correct the first time, every time. They get it correct maybe a third of the time.
I understand it, and that's why it's so important. While we will have guidelines from the legislature for those 3 sessions in advance of the 2023 deadline, you're going to have regulatory agencies like the Attorney General's office, Consumer Bureau of Protections, as well as the PUC looking at this day in and day out, trying to make sure that they get it right.
Okay, thank you.
Let me get one thing straight here. You expect 100% transparency? Is that what you said?
That's what we are advocating for, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly. Mr. Adams?
Thank you. From a constitutional perspective, the Constitution is intended to protect basic human rights: privacy, assembly, speech, religion, search and seizure, attorneys in criminal cases, eminent domain, slavery, keep and bear arms, right to vote, grand juries, the whole 9 yards. Why is the possibility of a lower power bill being elevated to a constitutional right?
The only rights that are being guaranteed in the Constitution under Question 3 are your right to self-production of power, your right to enter a competitive market, and your right to join an association with others to access power from a wholesale.
And it's your position that that is a basic human right akin to all
Well,
the
I would
other
akin
human
to
rights protected in the
Nevada's
Constitution?
Yes, and Nevada's Constitution is unique because we do have specific protections for mining in it as well. So for you to look at an industry and look at protections around that industry, it's something that has been done before in Nevada's Constitution.
Why, Ma Bell was broken up through regulations. They didn't need a constitutional amendment to break up Ma Bell. And I hear a lot of criticisms about the overreaching or over-earning of Nevada Energy. This sounds more like a commercial economic issue, not one involving basic human rights that we need to amend the Constitution for. There are other avenues that we can take to address many of the concerns that you want to get in through a constitutional amendment, which is not easy to tweak or get rid of once it's there.
I understand your concerns, but I would ask you, how many major energy issues have you seen legislated in the past 20 years? And of the major ones that you have seen, what did you see in terms of ratepayer outrage or response to those major initiatives that have been passed on energy? The one that I can tell you since I've been here that was the biggest issue that was through the legislature was rooftop solar. And that was because it was put in place, people were accessing it, and then it was regulatorily changed. Then it wasn't there, and people were in long-term leases and not able to sell their power back to the grids, trying to figure out what to do with those. And so that was there. That's why we have protections here, because legislative process hasn't allowed for the innovation and the rights of Nevadans and ratepayers to address what they would like to see
Yeah,
change.
but those aren't constitutional rights. Those are rights that you can enforce in court, that every individual has the opportunity to pursue.
Well, I mean, we just did this last session as well with marijuana. I mean, whether you were for it or against it, that was put into the Constitution.
There were a lot of things told to our people and our legislators that weren't really true when it came to that. And I'm very concerned about, my city council being sold a bill of goods on this.
I'm here to present to you our perspective, and I'm happy to have continued conversations with you. If you have specific things that you need addressed, if we can go into it in further detail, happy to do so at subsequent meetings. We'll continue to engage with you.
Grab it.
Yeah. We get a utility franchise fee currently. If this went to the yes side, who would we collect that from?
You want me to answer that? I'm happy to.
Yeah, if you guys got a plan on how we're gonna do.
So right now, MB Energy pays the franchise fee, right, on their proceeds across. So I believe I was corrected. I thought it was just on transmission, but it is on transmission and generation, and it's the gross revenue essentially off of that. So a percentage of your gross revenues isn't. So you will continue to collect that. Statutes will have to be changed, put in it, but you will collect that from the generation done by retail electric providers. You will collect that from NV Energy for the lines and transmission. You will collect that from folks who are engaged in this market. That will have to be put in statute, but that is something that can't be done to harm the municipalities at this point. And there will be strong advocates fighting for that. Us, along with you guys, we would be advocating for that as well.
Strong advocates aside, that sounds like there's a heck of a lot of risk in that, and there's no guarantee that you guys would be able to collect a franchise fee in a deregulated market. Look at the way the tax incentives are being thrown around in business, the way certain businesses even have held their state hostage to escape tax payments in the future. That could be something as we're trying to court businesses to come here and be part of this. They say, yep, we'll come here and generate power. We'll even sell it in Nevada, but we're not going to pay you any taxes and we're not paying any franchise fees.
And I would just respond to that by saying, how many major companies have come into the state and said, we will only come into the state if we don't enter NB Energy service? We're able to direct access by ourselves. A lot of major companies out in TRIC have done so and will do so in Southern Nevada. So that they are receiving, Switch exited, for example, paid $27 million to exit, and I believe they recovered their entire cost in 18 months. That's a big deal for large industrial providers. And the difference that they can get from the rates that are being paid at the utility and the rates that are being paid by direct access, which is an innovation you will not realize underneath the utility model.
The one thing that I hear from constituents on this issue, the big question that people have, and I would say especially really everybody, not just seniors, but everyone, is how do I, for my house sitting here in Sparks, if this passes, how do I get my energy? How do I go out shopping? How do I know who to choose? How does it transmit it to my house? And what if I don't have rooftop solar? So the concern from the residents is because there's so much that's so complex that is hard for the average person to digest what both of you are telling us. But at the end of the day, how do I turn on my lights?
Sure. I think it's a real concern, and this sort of ties back into the consumer abuse that Mr. Lawson was referring to. I would encourage you, just like Mr. Cherry did, go to the powertochoose.org website in Texas. And what you'll see there is what I would call tyranny of choice, right? When you got to remember with electricity, there's no product differentiation here. We're not talking about one ice cream parlor that sells 50 flavors. This is 50 ice cream parlors that all sell that same, vanilla waffle cone. So there's no inherent product differentiation. So how they package that is going to be a little different. And if you go to this website, you'll sort of see this. And where my mother lives in Harris County, Houston, Texas, I think there's over 188 providers and over 1,200 plans to choose from. So you can go there, you can click on all the contracts, and every one of these will have a 70-page contract written by a lawyer with all the T's and C's, and your power is, 6 cents up to half of what you need in a month, and then it's overage fees like they used to do on cell phones, or it's rates only good from 11 at night to 6 in the morning, or there's all sort of tricks and things embedded in there. And it's so complicated. If you want to see another, website, there's one called Energy Ogre, and these guys have built a very successful business where people will send them, I think, $15 or $20 a month, and they'll manage their electricity for them. They'll sign them up on contracts. They'll change them when the contract expires, make sure they get the rates. They'll even pay the bill for you. So it's made buying electricity so complicated that people with the means are hiring consultants and lawyers to buy power for them. I don't think it should be that complicated, but this makes it extremely complicated.
you also have to remember that there are 3 million residents of Nevada and 35 million residents of Texas. There are going to be opportunities and a larger volume of opportunities available on that size of a market for competitive market. So with that being said, the other thing you have to also remind is we advocate for the provider of last resort. So if an entity doesn't want, or an individual doesn't want to make a decision on how they purchase their power, they can go to that provider of last resort. Now, that provider of last resort, you're going to have to look at what they do to collect their charges for that power. Do you set a threshold over it so that you can limit their charges on folks? Is a provider of last resort for low-income folks, senior folks who don't have access to technology to look at it and compare prices. What we're going to have to do through this whole process is develop the education that's necessary for it. As the legislative process goes in the PUCN, you're going to see the PUCN putting out information. You're going to see retail electric providers putting out information. And I likely would say that you would see NV Energy putting out information with one of their competitive arms, because I don't truly believe that they will exit this market like they claim.
Okay, I see no more questions, so I'll give you a wrap up here, each of you, let's say 2 minutes to wrap up your case. Ryan, go ahead, wrap up, make a case for yes, and then Mr. Roberson, you're next with the last 2 minutes. You wanna, can you time this maybe, Teresa? Yeah. Okay.
I'll make mine very short. For Nevadans for Energy Choice, the Energy Choice Initiative only does 3 things. Guarantees your right, well, it eliminates the utilities generation on electricity, monopoly on generation for electricity. It guarantees your right to self-production of power, entry into competitive markets, and to join with others to buy power directly from a wholesale market. It also only requires that you put in place rules and regulations governing the market so Nevadans know what they're getting into when they're making the choices, whether they're going to self-produce their power, enter the competitive market, or try and join the wholesale market by July 1st, 2023.
Mr. Roberson?
Roberson.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
No relation to the legislator, if anybody is
Well, thank you.
curious about that piece of it. I get that a little bit. My closing message is the same message I had when I started out. You strip away all the rhetoric and, ads and fancy graphs. This is about dismantling one of the most affordable and reliable energy systems in the United States and replacing it with a virtual unknown, I think, as we go through. And, just some questions came up in our short session today that highlighted the uncertainty around it. So in a lot of ways, this is one of those things where you say, do you want to keep your current prize that you've got, or do you want to see behind door number 2? And I'll tell you, everybody that's looked behind door number 2, there hasn't been a winner on it. I've been out on this campaign trail talking to Nevadans since the first part of May. Talked to thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people. Talked to hundreds of people who've moved here from deregulated markets. I have not talked to a single person who's told me, deregulation was great for me and my family where I lived, and we saved all this money, and it was so reliable. I've heard nothing but horror stories. So look at the papers across the country and these deregulated markets, see what people are going through there. I think if you do that, you'll be on the right side of this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Mr. Cherry, Mr. Robertson, thank you very much. Great presentations. And like I said, we would not deliberate to a decision here. If you want to know how your council person or your mayor feel about this, give them a call. As an individual, make individual decisions. So thanks, gentlemen. Very good presentations, by the way. I think the citizens of Sparks, if they're watching, will appreciate both of you have doing this. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let's move on to consent items. Anybody want to pull a consent item 8.1 or 8.2? Seeing none, please give me a motion. Mr. Smith?
Move to approve consent items 8.1 and 8.2.
Mr. Abbott?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve consent items 8.1, 8.2. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, general business 9.1, consideration possible approval of an appointment to the Truckee River Flood Management Authority Board of Directors due to a vacancy left by Mayor Martini resigning his position. Okay, I would like to appoint Donald Abbott to this position since he's been helping me out since when I was out sick. So it's time for me to step down after 19 years of working on the flood project. I know Donald's been paying attention, so I'd like to appoint him to take this through till November. And when you guys have a new mayor and new appointments, board appointments, and hopefully the council will agree with that. Mr. Smith.
I move to appoint Donald Abbott to the Truckee River Flood Management Authority Board of Directors.
Mr. Dare.
Second that.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Dare to appoint Donald Abbott to the Flood Control Board. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
It's a sign.
Yikes. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Donald, I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, thank you.
9.2, consideration possible approval of resolution. Whoops, go ahead.
There was a second part to that original, was also appointing an alternate.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget that? Okay, I have a motion. Who do we want as who wants to be an alternate? I'm sorry. Charlene Bybee. I need a motion to appoint Charlene Bybee as an alternate. Sorry.
I'll do it before she changes her mind.
What's that?
I'll do it real quick before she changes her mind.
Oh, you make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second, okay, we have a motion by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Abbott. All those in favor, please vote, or if you're in favor, vote, please vote. Passes unanimously. I apologize for that. Okay, so it's Bybee as the alternate for Donald as the head guy. Okay, good. All right, well, let's move on then. Consideration possible approval of resolution number 3339, authorizing transfer of city's 2018 private activity bond capacity allocation of $5,108,114.57 to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority in an amount of $3,381,831.05.93, and the Nevada Housing Division in the amount of $1,277,028.64 for the use in their respective single-family homeowner buyer affordable rental housing programs. Who's doing this? George, come on down.
City Council. Good afternoon. George Graham, Housing Specialist for the record. Today I'd like to present for your consideration recommendation to City Council to consider approval of the SPOC's 2018 private activity bond cap authorization transfer under the Federal Tax Reform Act enacted in 1986. The state of Nevada receives an annual allocation, tax exempt private activity bond cap, and SPOC's portion this year totals $5,108,114. Staff received notice of the state bond cap allocation for this year on May 30th, 2018. And after review of the submitted application, City of Sparks received from Nevada Housing Division as well as an application or request from Nevada Rural Housing Authority on June 19th. Staff communicated and met with the applicants on their proposal of what they wanted with the bond allocation. And after thorough review, the application submitted by Nevada Housing Division, Nevada Rural Housing Authority, the staff recommends that City Council approves the 2018 allocation based on a submitted split of 75% to Nevada Rural Housing Authority and 25% to Nevada Housing Division of the application. And in closing, I recommend the City Council's approval of the 2018 allocation as presented. Also, I have today, as part of a presentation, I have Ms. Diane Avizo and Bill Brewer of the Nevada Rural Housing Authority that I'd like to
Thank you, George.
Excuse me.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I think you've just tossed it over to me, right, George?
Yes.
Okay, great. Diane Arvizo with the Nevada Rural Housing Authority for the record. It's nice to see all of you again this year. And Mr. Bill Brewer, our Executive Director. Would you
Yes.
like to open before I go through the?
Well, you've already done that, so bless your heart. We appreciate this time with the city council. We appreciate the opportunity to work with your staff, and we've appreciated the opportunity to bring our programs to Sparks. We've done a fair amount of good in Sparks, and so we wanted to take just a moment and let you know what we've done with the bond cap you've given us before, and then we'll ask you for this year's allocation, as George outlined.
All right, thank you. Well, I'd like to add that Bill is now our Executive Director as of August 1st. So for those of you who have worked with Mr. Gary Longacre, he's not here for the road show any longer because he's retired. So he's enjoying his grandkids and a little bit of retirement now. So Mr. Brewer is our new Executive Director, and we're delighted to have him leading the ship. So I've got a little PowerPoint here that I'm going to walk you through real quickly to just give you an overview of what we're doing currently with Nevada Rural Housing Authority as your local housing authority for the city of Sparks. And then we will touch on a couple items as we address any questions that you might have for us today. As you know, Home at Last is the homeownership program that was launched by Nevada Rural Housing Authority in 2006. But Nevada Rural Housing Authority has been getting people home in Nevada since 1973. The Home at Last program does provide exclusive homebuyer options for all residents in Nevada that are occupying areas of population under 150,000. Our mission is to promote, provide, and finance affordable housing opportunities for all rural Nevadans. Everything we do is about the mission. At Nevada Rural Housing Authority, we focus our mission on how we can help build thriving communities. And I know with Sparks, that is something that is near and dear to your heart as well. This year, I'm really humbled and honored to be able to share with you that we are a second-time recipient of a Single-Family Housing Excellence Award with our Home at Last program that was presented to us in May at the National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies annual conference. So that was very exciting to be able to receive that as we were recognized by both our peers and the convention for the work that we've done here in Nevada. Since coming home from that conference, we've actually had many of our housing finance agency peers reach out to us asking for conference calls with their teams so that they can learn how to model some of what we're doing here in Nevada. So we're always open and welcoming to share our ideas, and it's exciting to be able to do that. As you know, we love to work with our local communities so that we can make sure we're opening the doors so that every rural Nevadan can get a home that they can afford. Here's a quick program overview, but I have to shout out that we've actually got some updated figures for you that are even better than what you're seeing there. That 1.3 billion is actually almost 1.5 billion today. And so that's very exciting to update for you. And that 7352 is now almost 7,500. In fact, it's over 7,500 now. It was 74.99 on August 1st. So now we're probably pushing 76. And don't rush me, no, just kidding. And that includes our mortgage credit certificate program and our down payment assistance. We've provided almost $25 million in tax savings. And as you know, through our mortgage credit certificate program, that tax savings is generated with a refund of a portion of the mortgage interest that they pay on the mortgage that they get when they buy the home. And when they get that refund back to them, that actually is reinvested right here in their local community, which helps your community thrive. So we're really excited about what that can do. So that's what that tax savings represents. And the 42.1 million, boy, that's almost up to about 44 million now. That's down payment assistance that we've provided directly to Nevadans. And I will share with you in 2017, this last year, in Sparks alone, we've helped 244 families with almost 62 million in mortgages provided. So it's very exciting to be able to help that many families right here in the city of Sparks. Yay! Okay, and so I'm going to skip over that. Well, that's actually your program year to date, or program to date. So since we launched Home at Last in 2006, we've helped almost 1,900 families in the city of Sparks with about $372 million in mortgages provided. So one of the things that we've done that has kind of shaken up our housing finance agency peers are like, you're doing what? Has just been a real furry, warm, fuzzy movement in Nevada, and that's our How Pals Pet Adoption Program. So what we've launched here in Nevada, we've done it since November of last year, was pair with our Home at Last program the pet adoption feature. So every home buyer that uses our program after they purchase a home can go down to the local shelter in the community where they purchased a home and adopt a pet, and we pay the adoption fee. Part of what home ownership means to a family is things like having a home that you may not have been able to have when you were renting. And that changes some people's lives. If you think about the people who maybe live alone, and that means having a companion, or you think about the people raising kids who want to be able to have a pet for their families, but they can't because they don't have a yard or the landlord doesn't allow it. This is a life changer for them. So we want to promote all the wonderful feelings that come along with homeownership. The How Pals Pet Adoption Program has been amazing. You can watch all the news channels, Channel 2, Channel 4, Fox 11, and all of the local channels actually will be airing our commercials here shortly. And you'll be able to see some of the families that have used our How Pals Pet Adoption Program in conjunction with our down payment assistance program. So we definitely want to help promote getting our homeless pets into homes as well, because who doesn't love that, right? And then here's something that is truly touching, as Bill might tear up if he starts to talk about it. I love that softy part of you. So at Nevada Rural Housing Authority, we really listen to what our employees have to share when they talk about ideas that they have. And we had one of our employees come to us and share an idea some number of years ago. And to make a long story short, she started raising funds through a car show that she held in Carson City because she wanted to find a way that she could raise money to help our local youth to be able to participate in extracurricular activities so that they could not be separated on the level of being different from their peers. They wanted to give these kids an opportunity to be just like the person to the left and to the right of them. And to be able to do that, it means being on the same sports team, or being in band, or being in a club activity, doing something that does not make you look different because you don't have money or because you're poorer than your peers. So this has then evolved into a 501c3 that is now completely operated by staff level at Nevada Rural Community Partners is the name of the 501c3. So at Nevada Rural Housing Authority, we've got our own employee-operated 501c3, where 100% of the proceeds raised through fundraising activities by our employees goes back to helping local youth in rural communities like the city of Sparks, because rural happens here, right in Sparks, right? And we help these kids be able to change their stars so that money is not a factor in being like their peers. So if they want to be on the football team, but they can't pay that big package that it costs to get the equipment, or they want a band instrument, they can do that now. They can apply and get help through our scholarship program. So if you know of a way we can help get the word on that, we would love to be able to get that application out to the right people. We want to help the local youth here in the city of Sparks. And we did receive, the first year it launched as a 501c3, we did get recognition as the nonprofit of the year through the Northern Nevada Development Authority. So that was very exciting. But this all came from Janet, one of our employees, who came out of poverty herself. All right, so that's the end of that presentation that I have. But I had a couple fun facts that I thought you would find interesting here in Sparks. Did you know that out of the homeowners that we help in our program, here in just this area, in your neighborhood, 30% of them are Hispanic? And you've probably heard numerous times if you've been to any of the local economic development conferences or heard statistics and demographic reports, that number is expected to climb and continue to grow. Oops, my apologies. And so at Nevada Rural Housing Authority, we continue to strive to make sure that we're serving the underserved communities that may not have equal access to these programs. We've got bilingual staff that go out and do homebuyer seminars to make sure they have Spanish-speaking homebuyer seminars in person or online, that they can access the same information so that there's no barriers to getting the homeownership programs to our local Hispanic, Spanish-speaking buyers. Your average purchase price in our community for the last year was $270,000. So as that relates to your median price, you can kind of compare, that's our program purchase price. Average household income is just over $70,000. So as Mike gave you a quick overview from EDON, you'd find that interesting that in our program, that is the average household income. And actually, the down payment assistance that we're providing over the last year has actually, in Sparks, been about $1,500. So we've had over 50% of our borrowers using our conventional loan program, which is unique because it provides our borrowers with up to 50% lower mortgage insurance premiums than they can get in a traditional conventional loan if they just went into their local bank. So major savings to home buyers using our what we call HFA Preferred, which is a Housing Finance Agency preferred conventional program. And in some cases, they're getting a below market interest rate. So you've got some excellent borrowers buying homes that they can afford. Delinquency rates are below the national average. And we outperform on delinquencies amongst all our peers that provide down payment assistance all across the nation. So we're very excited to be able to share with you. It's an outstanding program that is performing incredibly well. And so we'd like to continue to ask for your support. If you're not using that cap for another program, we would love to continue to have your support by transferring that private activity bond cap to Nevada Rural Housing Authority so we can continue to fund the programs here as your local housing authority.
Well, thanks, folks, for coming. We appreciate it. You know, I don't know about the rest of the council, but I don't think you have a problem here. It doesn't sound like it with the statistics you're giving us and how you're helping the Sparks people, delinquency rates. That's all good stuff. And then the 503C program that you're doing now, another wonderful product you guys are doing. So we really appreciate all your help. So
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions, or George, you have anything else, or if you're done?
I'm ready. I can
Okay.
address any questions.
Any questions? If not, we're looking for a motion. Mr. Dare,
I can make a motion.
go ahead.
I move to adopt resolution number 3339, authorizing the transfer of the city's 2018 private activity bond capacity allocation of $5,108,114.57 to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority, and the amount of $3,831,085.93, and the Nevada Housing Division in the amount of $1,277,028.64 for the use in their respective single-family homebuyer and affordable rental housing programs.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 9.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. I kind of knew that. Thanks, folks. Appreciate your presentation. Thanks, George. Okay, 9.3 is consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a one-year contract AC 5507, bid number 1819-03 for Univar USA Inc. to supply sodium hydroxide to the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. Mr. Drinkwater, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Michael Drinkwater, Treatment Plant Manager. You have before you this afternoon a request to approve a contract with Univar USA to allow us to purchase sodium hydroxide for use at Tumwharf. This is a chemical that we use daily either to adjust the pH of the flow in certain areas to make it advantageous for us to treat, or to add alkalinity to the processes, again, in specific areas where we need that. We had a contract with a different supplier, which simply ran out. We had multiple year extensions. We used them all. Mr. Marin thankfully put it out to bid for us. The lowest responsive bidder was Univar USA. So we're looking for you to approve this contract so we can continue to buy this chemical.
Okay, questions for Mr. Drinkwater? Good presentation, no questions. That's good. Looking for a motion, Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the contract with Univar USA Inc. to supply sodium hydroxide to Tumwharf at a unit cost of $1.3414 per gallon.
Second, Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 9.3 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Good job, Mike. Sorry you had to wait so long. Price probably went up by 2 cents, so you waited so long, but that's all right. 9.4, reconsideration, discussion, and possible approval of a landscape maintenance service contract, AC 5505. Okay. For the landscape maintenance district bid 1819-002. Mr. Martini, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As this is a reconsideration, I am happy, Mr. Mayor, to provide you with a presentation or an abbreviated version, or just simply answer questions should you have them. Should questions come up with regard to the contract, I'll remind the council that Mr. Marin's here, so we should be able to answer your questions.
Questions, Mr. Lawson?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to approve the landscape maintenance service contract for landscape maintenance with Signature Landscape for the proposed contract period of September 2018 through March 2020 for a total cost not to exceed $180,899.
So second, Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 9.4 as outlined by staff. Questions, Mr. Dare?
Yeah, I just have a discussion on it. I know it's got pulled back and we're gonna think about this again. I like that there's teeth in this and looking at it. I still don't think it's the greatest idea for us to move forward or set precedent in it. I understand that we need a contract because we need to be able to have this, but I don't think that we've done the full due diligence of having every option on the table. And I'd like to make sure if this does not, say this way, if they do not follow through like they have not been following through, I'd like to make sure that we have another option. And I know people will say, well, we put the bid out there and only one came in. I understand that, but that's because we put the bid out that particular way. And so I'd like to make sure that we put out, if that means we split it up and have it, see if we can get different bids that way and make it towards maybe small, different projects, we get different interest. It seems very strange to me that we are in this bind where we're approving a group of people we know that have not done the job well. So with that said, I'm going to actually agree that we move forward on this round, but I hope that this is not a precedent that we set in our city that people think they don't have to do the job that we're paying for and actually then pay them more.
Understood.
Looking for
Thank you, sir.
future consideration. Okay, Ms. Spivey.
I'd just like to say, I too am uncomfortable with the fact that Signature has not done the job that they were paid to do, and I think I voiced my concern before. However, we do have to have the work done. I appreciate the work that Dan Marin did on cleaning up some of the gray areas. I think will help with the clarity of what exactly we're expecting of them, and I would hope that that improves as well as the teeth we put in this with financial penalties if they do not do the job. So for those two reasons, I can support this, but I would hope that, and if we approve this today, it would go the full contract, but that we would send the message to Signature and to other landscape companies that when we hire them, we want them to do the job they were paid to do. My concern is for staff spending a lot of time and for the residents of that area, especially Mesa Meadows, who've been in here to talk to us about the issues. So, but I do appreciate staff and the work that they've done on this. And I think, we are where we are today, but basically, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yeah, also, like everyone else, I think I'm very cautious as well, but, I did vote no on this last time. I'm going to switch. I'm going to support staff. I think you guys did a great job on it. I think there were some changes, but I do think we sent a message with what happened last council meeting. That's it. So thanks.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, please vote. We have a motion on the floor. Passed unanimously. Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, next is 12.1 public comment. I don't see anybody under comments from the public. Anyone? Yes, sir, come on down. Want to do it now?
Bill Wagner has to say something. Did Joe come here to have us look pretty?
Come on down, Bill.
For the record, my name is Bill Wagner.
Anyway, the question I have is, how does the energy get to my house on 7.4?
What, sir?
How does the energy get to my house from 7.4? I'm looking at 7.4.
That's something you should ask the folks from Nevada Energy. Bill, this is comments for the public. This is not discussion, so.
I know. I just wanted to know how it gets to my house.
You need to talk to Nevada Energy about that, I think, Bill.
Because do they own land that the property has to go under? I just want to know, how does this thing work? And how are they gonna?
Well, I see the manager writing down. We'll get to Nevada Energy, have them contact you, and you can talk with them.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, comments from the mayor, city council, or city manager? Okay, seeing none, no comments, no more business, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency of August 27th, 2018, with a roll call.
Okay, Agency Chair Bybee?
Here.
Agency members Abbott?
Here.
Lawson?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Martini?
Leaving.
Leaving? Dear?
If you hurry, we could get it in before he leaves.
Agency Attorney Adams?
Here.
And Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Thank you, we have a quorum.
Okay, moving on to item 3.0, public comment. Do I have any public comment? Seeing none, let me move on to item 4.1, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
Agency Member Dare, move to approve. Do I have a second? Agency Member Abbott, I have a second. Please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Is it not going to go because, do we have? Okay, motion carries. Item 5.1, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting of July 23rd, 2018. Do I have any changes, omissions, or motion to approve? Agency Member Dare?
Move to approve?
Motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Agency Member Abbott. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Item 6.1, consideration and possible acceptance of the report of the claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of July 4th, 2018 through August 8th, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve? Agency Member Abbott?
Here. All right, here.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Agency Member Dare, second. I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Comments, 7.1, comments from the public. Do I have any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll open 7.2, comments from the agency and chief administrative officer. Do we have any comments? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.